Welcome to the deep dive. This is where we take sources you send us, could be articles, research notes, whatever you've got, and we really try to unpack them.
Yeah, find the important bits, the surprising stuff.
Exactly. We want to give you that shortcut to being well informed, even when the material is uh, all over the place.
And today we definitely have an eclectic mix. It's actually quite fascinating just seeing the range of information people are looking at.
Right.
From really specific kind of bizarre incidents to these huge sweeping claims about, well, everything. Philosophy,
But less
theology.
about one single topic this time, isn't it?
Totally. It's more about looking at how different ideas, different, truths get constructed and put out there today.
Okay, so let's dive into this wild collection. Let's see what stands out. First up, we had an excerpt sent in from Court TV, NJV Christopher Greger, treadmill abuse murder trial.
Right. And, we appreciate getting all the sources. We really do.
But this one,
Yeah, this one was basically just the privacy terms and conditions. So not much factual content there for us to dig into.
Happens sometimes.
It does. It's actually a good reminder that, the sources themselves can really vary in what they offer. Sometimes there's just not much there.
Okay, so let's pivot. Let's go to something that definitely did have content. Maybe a unique kind of content.
So, yeah.
We got this Reddit thread. The title alone is something. Pennsylvania woman arrested for launching explosive diarrhea out of her rear end on another driver's car during a road rage incident.
It's quite a headline.
It really is.
And what's fascinating, maybe predictably, isn't just the incident itself, described as launched explosive diarrhea.
Well, how? That's the immediate question, right?
Exactly. The comments are full of that. Like, how? So quick, accurate, and didn't even need to take her shorts and pants off.
Yeah.
Just aimed, cocked her leg, and blasted. People are trying to figure out the physics.
And the physiology, too.
Oh, yeah. Comments like, stress can do some shitty things to your tummy. Or talking about, adrenaline pumping.
Makes sense, I guess, in
Yeah.
a very strange way.
And then others are just stunned by the audacity. Someone actually wrote, should be tried in The Hague.
The Hague.
Yeah. So it's this mix of shock, disbelief, maybe some weird admiration for the commitment. I don't know.
But it wasn't just about the act itself, was it? The comments went somewhere else, too.
Right. The person filming it. That became a whole discussion.
What were people saying?
Calling the videographer a hero for risking shit all over his windshield to document this?
A hero? Seriously?
Yeah. And comparing the footage to the Zapruder film.
No way.
Someone who's called it the Zapruder film.
Oh my God. Zapooper film. Okay.
So, there's this whole debate in the comments then about, like, do you film or do you just experience the moment? And how hard is it to hold a camera steady after 12 beers, apparently?
That adds another layer.
It really does raise a question, doesn't it? In this age where everything gets documented, how far will people go to capture something? Anything, really. And then how does the internet process that kind of raw, unconventional news?
It becomes this weird mix of humor and, well, maybe profane commentary.
Exactly. It just shows how quickly bizarre, unfiltered stuff can spread and spark these conversations.
Okay, well, from unfiltered and bizarre, let's shift gears pretty dramatically.
Yeah. This next one is different.
We received this document titled Truth in Picture Sandword, and it's a lot, very expansive.
It really is. It's basically laying out this sweeping reinterpretation of, well, religion, history, society. Lots of very strong, very unconventional claims that really challenge mainstream understanding.
Definitely requires a deep dive just to grasp the perspective here.
Absolutely. And just to be clear, our aim here is just to convey the arguments and the claims made in this document impartially, so you can kind of see the internal logic, how it connects all these different ideas.
Right. We're presenting what the source says, not endorsing it.
Exactly. It uses very bold language, positions itself against accepted narratives. It's constructing this whole alternative worldview.
Okay, so where should we start? Maybe with how it reinterprets religious history. It seems to redefine some really basic terms.
Yeah, that's a good place to start. It goes right at the concept of religion itself.
What does it say?
It claims religion is a human invention, even calls it satanic. Says it was created in 1303 specifically and wasn't ordained by God.
Okay, so what is ordained by God, according to this source?
It defines holiness, says that's the real thing, describes it as a clean, undefiled, separated, sinless, and pure and perfect way of living, not a religion.
So right away, it sets up this idea that what most people think of as religion is actually a corruption.
Precisely. That's the foundation. And that kind of deconstruction, it continues with, like, key terms and names.
Yeah, I saw that part about the letter J. That's a pretty big claim.
It is. The document asserts the letter J didn't exist until 1775.
1775. Wow. So what's the implication of that according to the source?
Well, following that logic, it says the words Jew and Jesus must be fabrications. It actually uses the word forged.
Forged by who?
It points fingers at the Jewish Masoretes. Those are the scribes who standardized the Hebrew Bible and the Roman Catholic Church. Claims they inserted these names.
So, if not Jesus or Jews, what are the correct terms according to this document?
It says God's true people are Hebrews who spoke Hebrew. And Christ's true name, it claims, is Yahya.
Yeshaya. Okay. So that obviously changes how it views Christ's divinity, too.
Absolutely. It directly argues Christ is not God the Father.
So how does it explain that relationship, then?
The claim is that God was manifested in the flesh, but through Christ. It says the Father's Spirit dwelled in him. It uses Bible verses, things like John 1.1 or Genesis 1.26, let us make man in our image, to argue for a separation.
And it emphasizes how people at the time referred to him.
Exactly. It highlights Peter calling him the Son of the living God, or people calling him the chosen of God. Arguing this shows he wasn't seen as God himself.
Okay. And this critical lens extends to the word church, too.
Oh yeah. It claims church comes from paganism, specifically the Greek goddess Circe, or Curse, daughter of the sun god Helios.
Circe, like from the Odyssey.
Apparently so, according to the source. It argues church therefore refers to a building for pagan worship of sun gods on Sunday.
Sunday for sun gods. Okay, I see the connection it's making.
And it contrasts this with what it calls the proper Hebrew term, akwal, meaning assembly, company, or congregation.
And it brings Emperor Constantine into this, too.
Yes, claims Constantine legislated Sunday, back in 321 AD, as a day dedicated to the pagan sun god. So the whole concept of church and Sunday worship is framed as pagan.
And this extends to holidays as well, right? Christmas, Easter.
Definitely. Thanksgiving, Christmas, it specifically says December 25th is Nimrod's birthday, not Christ's, and Easter sunrise services, all of them are denounced.
Denounced as well.
As satanic rituals and customs and feasts that honor other gods. Again, it links these back to Constantine in 321 AD, calling them vain teachings from the doctrines and commandments of men.
It seems very focused on separating what it sees as true divine practice from later, potentially pagan corruptions.
That's a central theme. It even reinterprets the Holy Ghost.
How so?
It takes issue with certain manifestations like shouting, screaming, speaking in tongues without interpretation, falling on the floor, and claims that's actually the spirit of Bacchus.
Bacchus, the Roman god of wine.
That's the one. An intoxicating pagan spirit, it says. It contrasts this with what it calls the Most High's true spirit, Ruach, which it says brings wisdom and understanding.
So differentiating between types of spiritual experiences, what about God's chosen people? Does it touch on Israel?
Yes, it asserts Israel has not been done away with, even with transgressions.
Yeah.
It cites Jeremiah to back this up.
And make some specific connections.
Yeah, it does. It links North American Indians specifically to the tribe of Gad, and it also gets very specific about dietary laws, listing clean and unclean foods based on Mosaic law.
Okay. And women in leadership roles.
Takes a very strong stance there. It attributes women teaching the Bible or preaching to what it calls a Jezebel spirit.
Jezebel spirit. What does that imply here?
It frames it as a scheme by Satan. The goal, according to the source, is to destroy the family structure and promote woman leadership over men, which it argues is unbiblical.
Right. And one more religious point, the marriage of Mary and Joseph. It has a unique take there, too.
Yeah, it challenges the standard interpretation of Mary's espousal. It argues the phrase, before they came together, refers to consummating an already existing marriage.
Okay, and why does that matter in his view? What's the bigger picture?
It connects Joseph wanting to put her away privily to Deuteronomic law about stoning if a bride wasn't found to be a virgin. The source claims this was all part of a plot, basically, to get rid of Joseph to support Babylonian worship of mother and child.
Wow, okay. That is a lot of detailed religious reinterpretation. It's like building a whole different history.
It really is a systematic redefining of terms, figures, events, practices.
And it seems like this same critical, maybe even conspiratorial perspective gets applied to modern society, too.
Absolutely. The document shifts gears, but maintains that same lens. It talks about the elite and mind control.
What's the theory there?
It suggests the elite use the routines of daily life, work hours, chores, media, like mathematical equations,
Equations for what?
to keep people stuck in a state of labor illusion, basically too busy and distracted for critical thinking. It says mind control happens through the stroke of the elite's pen and bloodthirsty sharks known as the media.
So a system designed to keep people docile. And does it see the government involved in other things, like families?
Yes, very much so. It claims certain government-allied factions use professionals like psychiatrists, psychologists,
It
sociologists.
doesn't think highly of them.
Calls them parasites and leeches. It claims they work to destroy families through things like child protective services, which it calls legalized kidnapping, and child support enforcement.
Leading to what, in its view?
Fathers being imprisoned, becoming homeless, basically a deliberate attack on the family unit.
And this critique extends to education, history books.
Oh yeah, it dismisses American history books as standardized textbooks teaching his story. HIS story full of lies.
Does it give an example?
The main one cited is Christopher Columbus. Instead of just discovering America, it reframes his arrival as being responsible for 34 million Native American deaths. A radically different narrative.
Definitely challenges the standard view. Now, there was also a really shocking claim about medicine. CT scans, mammograms.
Yes, this is probably one of the most extreme claims in the document.
What does it allege?
It states flat out that CT scans and mammograms are designed to cause cancer.
Designed to. As part of what?
Part of a depopulation agenda, it says, run by the AMA, the American Medical Association.
How does it justify that? Radiation.
Exactly. It claims CT scans give radiation equal to up to 750 chest x-rays, or even like standing near an atomic bomb explosion. This, it argues, causes cancer later, which then benefits the financial interests of drug companies and cancer clinics.
So a massive medical conspiracy for profit and population control.
That's the argument presented. Very typical of certain conspiracy frameworks linking institutions, money, and hidden harmful agendas.
And it doesn't stop there, right? It goes after televangelists, too.
No, they don't get a pass either. It names specific figures like T.D. Jakes and Eddie Long, calling them ministers for Satan and government agents.
Why? What's the accusation?
That they sell false hope by charging money for the gospel, making merchandise of people through covetousness. It even does a calculation like how much they make selling CDs.
In seminary schools.
Calls them cemetery schools.
In cemetery schools.
Yeah. Producing dead teaching and dead members, teaching traditions of men, not God's actual word. It reflects a real deep distrust of organized institutional religion, especially if money's involved.
It seems to tie a lot of modern life back to a lack of faith, or the wrong kind of faith.
It does. It says worrying about everyday things, bills, jobs means you're serving mammon, which it equates with Satan, instead of trusting God to provide.
And then there's the critique of America itself. The language gets really strong there.
Extremely strong. It says America is guilty as charged. It uses graphic language saying the country should be hunged, she should be bombed as she has bombed other nations, her children should be sold and gutted like a hog.
Wow. That's incredibly harsh. Does it connect this to specific events?
Yes, it mentions the Fort Hood incident as an example of something potentially staged by the elite.
Staged for what purpose?
To stir up hatred against Arabs, justifying military action to get oil.
So it sees major events through this lens of elite manipulation for geopolitical gain. Okay, let's shift again, this time to ancient history. The document talks about suppressed knowledge, right? Books like Enoch and Jubilees.
Yes, it highlights those specifically, calls them books the Roman Catholic Church tried to suppress. The idea is that they hold crucial information, especially about the time before Noah's flood.
Information about what, mainly?
About the Nephilim, or giants.
Right. What's the explanation it gives for them?
It says they were the offspring of fallen angels who cohabited with human women, calls them demonic hybrids.
And these giants were big.
Immensely so, according to the text. It quotes potential original translations suggesting heights up to 900 meters or maybe 135 meters in a Greek version. Hard to even picture.
What did they do, these giants?
The source says they devoured everything human labor, then humans themselves, animals. And it makes another startling claim.
Which is?
That this interbreeding also brought forth your dinosaurs.
Dinosaurs, from fallen angels and humans.
That's what the document asserts. And it argues this whole corruption is why the flood happened. It also links the Anakim, mentioned in the Bible, as being descendants of these Nephilim.
So a whole secret history involving Angels, giants, dinosaurs, suppressed books.
Exactly, weaving together various fringe interpretations of ancient texts and myths.
And finally, it touches on prophecy in modern groups, too. It mentions Jehovah's Witnesses.
It does, quite directly. It critiques them specifically for what it calls their false prophecies about the end times.
Like specific dates.
Yeah, it lists several 1872, 1914, 1925, others pointing out that the world didn't end as predicted. It even mentions a specific mansion, Beth Sarim, built for prophets who never showed up. It uses these examples to discredit their claims.
And how does the document end its own sort of prophetic section, something about spiritual Egypt?
Yes, it talks about a future deliverance, one that will be bigger than the exodus from ancient Egypt.
Deliverance from where?
From the land of the North, which it explicitly identifies as North America and other places of captivity. But it stresses this is a spiritual deliverance, not physical. People shouldn't flee, it says, but trust God.
So it ends with its own kind of prophecy, tying back into its spiritual framework.
Exactly. It provides a concluding vision that pulls together its critiques of society and its specific religious interpretations.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we've covered a really extraordinary range of material today.
We really have. From that truly bizarre road rage story,
Which tells us a lot about online reactions and viral content.
all the way to this incredibly detailed document laying out a completely alternative way of seeing history, religion, society, everything.
Right. And what's striking is how both, in completely different ways, show the sheer diversity of information or truth that's out there.
Yeah.
And how it gets presented and consumed.
So what's the takeaway here? What does it all mean?
Well, I think it really underscores just how varied that landscape of information is. Some of it's weirdly anecdotal, like the Reddit story. Some of it builds this entire intricate alternate reality, like the Truth in Pictures document.
Complete with its own history, its own villains, its own prophecies.
Exactly. It pushes us, maybe, to think not just about what information we encounter, but how it's put together. What are the underlying assumptions? What are the different ways people are trying to make sense of the world?
Whether that's through, traditional news or Reddit forums or these really unconventional, comprehensive belief systems.
Right. All existing side by side in the modern information space.
And maybe that leaves a question for you, listening. When you're faced with such a huge spectrum of claims, from the mundane to the truly out there, what tools do you use? How do you figure out what resonates as truth for you?
It's definitely a constant process, isn't it? Well, it requires critical thinking, but also maybe a degree of open-mindedness to even understand where different perspectives are coming from.
Exactly. Well, until next time, keep digging into things, keep asking questions.
And keep deep diving into this fascinating, sometimes weird world of information.